We are ready to talk about instructions for what you need to do on Review and Preview 1.1.2. The first question that you should see is question 110, and after you read through that in your ebook, you'll notice that for part A and part B there are two separate things we're going to do. There's a reminder on your answer sheet that for both A and B you have to use exactly 4 tiles for your drawing. So just remember that for part A, you have to use exactly twice as many toothpicks as you do tiles. So if we have to use 4 tiles, and I have to use twice as many toothpicks, we should be able to figure out how many toothpicks that is, and make sure that your drawing that you put here in this space shows me the tiles, and you have labels for where those toothpicks will belong. Now on part B, we're still using 4 tiles. You have to use exactly 4. But this time we are supposed to have toothpicks that are more than twice as many tiles. So again, if I'm using 4 tiles, I'm going to have more than twice as many toothpicks. So again, there's space in here for you to put your drawing with your tiles. And again, make sure you're labeling where those toothpicks are so I can see what you've got where. On to question 11. In question 11, they are showing you some figures in your ebook. And for parts A and B, they're both rectangles. For both of those, they're asking you to find the area of the figure and the perimeter of the figure. So thinking about tiles and toothpicks. If you haven't already read the math notes box for the lesson, that's a good place to check out for some reminders if you need them. The other important thing is going to be remembering to include labels in your answers. In both A and B, we're working with centimeters. So for area, since it's a square unit, I would have to make sure I label square centimeters. And for perimeter, I would have to make sure that I label with just centimeters. Now when you get to part C says you get to design your own shape, but you have to use exactly 5 tiles. So any design with 5 tiles will work. This is the space where I want to see you draw your design. And after that's done, tell me what the area is and what is the perimeter. We don't know if this is centimeters, inches, meters, or miles. So our labels this time for area and perimeter should either be units or square units. So that was question 11. When you get to question 12 is talking about a pattern. They show you the first 3 figures in a pattern, and it's your job to figure out what figure 4 is going to look like. In part A, it asks you to draw what figure 4 should look like. Please remember, this is not a pattern that repeats. So this pattern won't be triangle, square, pentagon, triangle, square, pentagon. It does not repeat, it will build. So for figure 4, it doesn't have to be perfect. I should just be able to see what I need to see here. Then for part B, it doesn't say draw, it says describe. So using some words, tell me what figure 5 and figure 6 will look like. Figure 5 will blank. Figure 6 will blank. Show me a sentence, use some punctuation, start off with a capital. And for part C, once you have figured out what the pattern is, part C asks, how is the pattern changing? So what is it that's happening from figure 1 to figure 2? How is it changing from figure 2 to figure 3 and so on? We see the same thing happening each time, and that's what part C is asking you to describe. Each figure does this. We do this to each figure each time. So again, show me a nice sentence there for part C on question 12. Question 13. Question 13 is asking you to divide a square into 4 equal parts. It says show at least 3 ways to do that. So I've got 3 squares for you here on your answer sheet. Even though there are 4 possible correct answers, you've only got to show me 3 there on question 13. The last one we've got is question 14, and there's an interesting graph that you need to check out there in your ebook. You're going to see only 2 different points on this graph. Each point tells you about 2 different schools. But what's interesting is that each point actually tells us 2 different things about these schools. Each point tells us the amount of money they've earned. You should be able to see that on the vertical axis. Each point also tells us the number of cars that each school has washed, and you're going to find that along the bottom across the horizontal axis. Now, for part A and part B, which school washed more, which school raised the most, I don't anticipate those will be difficult questions for you to answer correctly. So please remember, I'm most interested in the how do you know part. So I'm looking for an explanation of how did you know this one raised more? How did you know this one washed more? How is that point for that school positioned in relation to the other point for the other school? So tell me about how they compare in that sense. Part C, even though it says additional challenge, you can do it. We're gonna figure that out one here for part C. Asks you how much is each school charging to wash one car. So if you look at the graph and it says they earned this much money for washing this many cars, there's only one step that will get you to this answer. And for both of those, the one operation you should be able to use is division. So if we figure out how much they earned, how many cars they washed, I can use that information to figure out how much they charge for each car, per car. And that is question 14.